Welcome back. We are standing by for Donald Trump to take major legal action today, now just 13 days out from Iowa. At any moment now, Trump is expected to appeal both decisions in Colorado and Maine to remove him from their primary ballots. Also today, a key deadline in his immunity fight as his federal election subversion trial, that starts the day before Super Tuesday, by the way, nears. With us now is business and compliance attorney and constitutional attorney Seth Berenzweig. Seth, good to have you. Let's start with just how the 14th Amendment will be applied here. What do you think?
Well, the Supreme Court is going to be called upon as to whether it will exercise jurisdiction over this case. They probably would prefer not to because it's obviously a political hot potato, but they will probably have to accept the case because you have different jurisdictions coming up with different rulings and different standards. So that's one of the aspects of accepting jurisdiction before the Supreme Court. So they'll have to apply a rule of consistency in terms of what they will do when they likely have it. They will have to make a determination, principally whether the Colorado Supreme Court was correct in ruling that Mr. Trump was an officer within the meaning of the 14th Amendment's disqualification clause. And it's going to be difficult for them to, in my view, conclude that he is not an officer when he leads the office of the presidency under the United States. So they're going to have a number of issues, not only from a substantive standpoint, but they'll also probably look through the lens on some procedural aspects. For example, they may make a determination as to whether the plaintiffs in these kinds of cases have legal standing to assert these kinds of cases, and the Supreme Court may try to avoid substantive rulings by looking at the procedural issues. What time will tell, but we do know that the appeal is being filed today, so it really is a historic day here in Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, let's assume for a moment that the Supreme Court picks this up, which, as I understand it, you believe they will. I mean, walk us through when, the when that might happen, because of course, you know, I mean, we're 2 weeks out from Iowa. I mean, 2024 is fast approaching.
Well, one of the great things about being a federal judge is that you have a lot of power and you can apply what you want when you want. But in terms of directly answering your question, I think that everything will happen very quickly. As you've correctly noted, Mr. Trump is filing his appeal to the Supreme Court today. The Supreme Court will probably have to make a determination on that within the next few days, and I also believe that when they likely accept the case, that they will accept an expedited briefing schedule. It will be an unusual process, but keep in mind, everybody in Washington in the judiciary knows what's going on. So, for example, in another case that you also noted a moment ago, in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, they are also on a quick expedited hearing that will take place next Tuesday. That will also be accelerated to the Supreme Court. So we have a lot of developments that are percolating and pushing rapidly towards the Supreme Court. I believe that they'll issue a ruling because there's a lot of activity happening politically. They know they have to make this landmark ruling as soon as possible.
Yeah, speaking of new developments, and switching topics a bit to the election subversion case, today is also the deadline for Trump's team to file their rebuttal. I mean, what are you expecting there?
Well, it's really interesting because Jack Smith filed a very persuasive brief to which Mr. Trump will be filing a rebuttal brief today. And in that brief, the special prosecutor noted, really in keeping with the great precedent that he cited, that the question is whether or not the acts at issue were political versus official. And the thing is that we already can read some of the tea leaves on this case. Mr. Trump will, of course, be arguing in opposition to that and saying that he's entitled to immunity. However, we already have an advance read because this court, only a couple of weeks ago in the D.C. Capitol riot, D.C. police case, also ruled that presidential immunity was off the table for acts during the presidency that were political and not official. So I think we have a crack in our crystal ball. We don't know exactly what they'll do, but I predict that the hearing will occur as timed next Tuesday. That decision will probably be out within a matter of days and will also accelerate very rapidly to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Certainly a lot to watch. Seth Berenzweig, thank you so much. Good to see you.